How y'all doing today? My name's Ayin, and today's topic of discussion is going to be forego giving into emotion. Forego giving into emotion. Now, in regards to giving into emotion, what I'm talking about is those emotions that become trigger points for us, triggers to where we act out in a negative way. We act out in a destructive way towards others. We break down, bring down because we're feeling that hurt, that anguish, whatever it is that we're going through, and we lash out. And then later on, the relationship is fractured, or maybe it never gets back to the way that it was. When you forego giving into those emotions, and I know it's hard. It's really hard because some of us, we have the feeling to where when you're hurt, you want to return that hurt, and you're allowed to move on, and that's flawed thinking. It's flawed thinking. If you learn to think about you first and how things benefit you first, that's the reason why you notice on this channel we talk a lot about you. That's the reason why I have a you folder of you videos. When you learn how to work on you and what's best for you, sometimes it's seeing things in the future that you might not necessarily notice when you're going through things. That's the reason why you set goals. If there's ways that you know that you want to improve on your relationships or things that you would like to get over or put down doing so you're not to do them anymore, you have to think about those things beforehand. So when these situations arise and you run into these heated discussions or when emotions are running high, you can think back in that instance on remembering on that long-term goal. Look, this is not something out the road that I want to go down because I'm trying to change this. And even though it might not feel good in that moment, it might not feel, the best, especially because you're accustomed to lashing out and making a person feel like how they're making you feel in that moment. If you could think about that long haul of what you yourself are working on and striving for, even though you may put it down in that instant, and you may leave, and I know because I've had many a situation where after it's transpired, I've been the bigger person and I walked away, and you're really feeling even more heated because you're just like, man, I wanted to give them a piece of my mind. They don't know me. They don't know the old Ayin on how I would have let you have it. I would have just, ground you in the dust verbally or whatever the case may be. And you walk away and you almost feel slighted because you're just like, man, it's like they got one over on me. But they didn't, because you're changing. You're growing. You know what you set out to achieve and do before you were even doing it. If not anything, you should really be patting yourself on the back and really be jumping for joy that you overcame a hurdle. Because especially if you were a person that was quick to react to certain things. And the reason why I'm saying pat yourself on the back and knowing that you overcame a hurdle, because this was an instant that you didn't act out in emotion. You actually thought about what you were going to do before you did it. You thought about it, but you thought about it in a good way because you changed that self-talk, and you've changed it to a degree that you didn't even think that you thought about it until after the fact. So put down that pride, something that my mother told me when I was probably about 16, 17, really what I'm probably say about 17. Something I was going through with the job, was really angry with it. And my mother told me, she was like, son, it's pride before the downfall. Pride before the downfall. And she didn't have to say anything further because the way that I took it when I thought about that pride before the downfall, since I'm visual with everything that I think about, I thought about, here it is, you got this this sign saying, pride here, and you're really charging towards it. This sign is just like, yeah, I'm being prideful. Whatever you may be thinking about, you're heading towards pride. And right after that sign of pride, there's a cliff and you drop off and you fall to your death. That's what I thought about when I thought about pride before the downfall. It was something that I didn't want to do. So in her saying those words, pride before downfall, those 3 or 4 words, it got me thinking. And that's the reason why I talk about a lot in this channel when you're talking to others. Some people say, oh, I don't like to give advice because, it comes back to home. You can give advice. You can give advice on getting people to think for themselves. Ask the right questions to get their gears a turning. But in that moment of thinking about that, it meant so much to me. Sometimes words that are fewer have a greater impact because you get to fill in those blanks. You get to fill in those blanks on what it means to you, opposed to somebody laying it out before you. They lay it out before you, and it might not mean necessarily what it means to them. It might not mean to you. So think about that. Forgo giving into emotions. Think about what your goals and your dreams, your aspirations are, the things that you want to work on. Think about those. Put those things first. In the end, I'm telling you, you'll be happier with it. I know that I'm happy that I didn't return a lot of the hate that I had gotten up on things, and I've just kind of moved on. And you don't know how that impacts people as well, because even though a person might be doing an exchange with you, you don't know what type of respect they may be garnering for you in the way. And something else, you don't know who's watching. You don't know who's watching. You could be setting an example for somebody else. You might be opening the door to talk and have a discussion with somebody else. Man, how were you able to hold your tongue and maintain the way that you did? What are some of the things I'm telling you? I'm telling you some of the things that I've talked about in some of these videos. You might not notice, but other people may notice. That's the reason why I've talked about, quit looking for pats on the back from other people. Pat your own self on the back. Work towards you. Forgo giving into emotion. That's all I want to say in regards to the matter for today. Okay? In the meantime, check out my book, I Ain't Kilimanjaro's The Arithmetic of Family Communication. I'll leave a link in the description box. In the meantime, stay encouraged, avoid being discouraged, and you all have a good one.